And I don't see him yet, but I'm sure there he goes. Yay. Um,
Aloha.
Aloha Tam. So I'm just going to welcome everyone. Aloha, everyone. My name's Tanya Yamanaka Anastasian. I'm a principal contractor for the Chamber of Sustainable Commerce. I'm also running for State Senate District 2. Super happy to be here with Alan and Allison Blackard, Stephen Calkins, and Tam Hunt. Just a handful of people who are working towards food independence and community resilience in the area of food systems, food distribution. There's so many people involved in this kind of area. Just to give people the broader idea, this includes farms and agriculture in general, agricultural producers. This includes food, tropical fruits, fishermen, cattle, all kinds of food hubs, value-added food products, value-added food infrastructure, commercial kitchens, farmers markets, emergency operations. I mean, it goes on and on. It's an entire food ecosystem that we're talking about coordinating. So I'm super happy to have you guys here so we can have a really good conversation. I did want to say that two other people wanted to really be here, and that is Sid Hoffeld, who I think is running for County Council District 4. And she just wanted to say she's at another meeting right now, in-person meeting, but what's really important to her is that food prescriptions and food is medicine to become more and more important as we look to use healthy food, local foods to prevent, manage, and treat diet-related diseases and illnesses. And Dawn Connealy Kleinfelder also cannot be here. She might be at a dial-in, but she's cooking right now. She owns Liko Lehua Cafe in Hilo. So she's another one who's got a lot on her plate. I know everyone running for office actually has a gazillion things on their plate. So um, I want to talk first with Alan and Allison, and maybe just share, because I think what you guys bring to the table is people who more recently learned how to grow food and then right away started teaching the community how to grow food. And so how do people tap in like that? What got you going?
Well, we started during the heart of COVID, and I was doing the ag program at HCC because we want to learn how to grow food for ourselves. Because we saw prices going up and up at the grocery store. And my professor tasked my graduating class with, what are you going to do? We have a food insecurity problem. What are you going to do? And Alan and I came up with this idea of hydroponic hut and starting a food movement in our community.
And being able to, and like, what was your goal? To provide fresh food? Did you know you were going to start teaching people?
Well, I was going to say, when she first started doing it over at the school, she showed me what they did. And that's what was kind of amazing, because you saw the infrastructure they built, and it wasn't that bad really for anybody to start that. And then it was one of those things where if you build that, it's so simple to maintain and keep growing in abundance. So we're trying to get everybody as much as, learn this as fast as possible, so you could start, growing for your own family and your community. And that's what we started doing. We actually started a U-Pick. So they first were going to come to the place and just do a U-Pick and leave that day. But it wasn't filling up, and we weren't selling as much, and people weren't really realizing the whole concept of it as much as we wanted. So that's what she started teaching. Actually, Mary Jane was the one who said you should start teaching these classes. She's the one who started pushing Allison.
Right. So now when I hear you guys talk about hydroponic hut, a lot of times you refer to it as a food movement. And so what does that mean to you guys?
Well, it's a movement because if it's just Alan and I growing food for ourselves and for the community, it's not much of a movement. It's a movement when everybody gets on board and starts growing for themselves, and we teach people, and then they teach other people, and it becomes a movement when our whole community starts moving. Our motto is growing Hawaii together, and it's not just growing the food together, but growing us together as a community. During COVID, everybody was so separate, and it's like we didn't know anybody, and now since we've done this, we've met so many people. We've been connected with so many different farmers. It's been awesome. And it's a movement when our community is moving and growing, raising, and making food for themselves and for the community, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, let me just see here. Like when you talk about, like your neighbors growing vegetables or raising, chickens and harvesting eggs or, raising meat, what does growing it, raising it, making it, what does that mean in everyday life? Like in your perspective?
Well, I'll jump on that. Well, I would say it's just, once we get everybody to kind of jump on board and do it, whether you, like I said, whether you're growing vegetables, whether you're raising chickens, where, I mean, all kinds of, I don't know. I look at it like such a huge bartering opportunity like it used to be. And with everybody doing something, you're not going to be a jack of all trades and really master any of it. But if you do master at least a couple, each one of us have something different. It just gives such a nice abundance of everything that everybody needs. And with our community all doing it, it just puts it in place where we can all go and I don't know, and be taken care of, instead of sitting there worried about whether it's coming in on the ships or not. I just like to see the whole community growing it for each other.
And with the different climates that we have in different areas, it's like I may grow something well at my property, but it doesn't grow well at another property. So if that person grows there or raises something over there, then we can come together and, either exchange, money or just barter. I mean, I love the fact of bartering, because like for one thing, we can't really do chickens and stuff like that. So we barter with Angela over at 50 Farms, and she doesn't really want to do the hydroponics. Like, it's like we're kind of expert at that, where she's an expert at her field. So we trade, and it's awesome. It's great. So we get access. It's not just, the money factor. It's getting access to these, nutritious, awesome foods. A lot of times you can't even find that in the grocery store. And it's like, if you find it in the grocery store, you ask the people in Safeway or something, where did this come from? How was it grown? They don't know. But if you go ask your farmer, they know, and they'll tell you.
Right. So true. So what do you think that, or what do you hope that the people you're working with or that you're teaching are going to do with the knowledge that they gain?
Okay, I'd like to say, first of all, MJ, she's one of the ones that I look at right now. Oh my word. Not only her, but there's a few others out there. There's Shirley, there's Glenda, there's Angel. There's a handful of guys that now I've seen their farms, and it's huge. It's huge. I mean, they have done so much with it, and now their community, or like one of the guys, like Angel, he has so much, and he gives so much to all of his workers and employees that they are now bartering with each other. So what I like to see, it's so beautiful. It's like I've seen some of these farms just grow way bigger than I ever thought they were going to, and now they have abundance. And they started off with nothing, not even the knowledge, and now they've taken it, and it's like, I mean, some of them are way bigger than what we have. So I love seeing that.
I do. I love seeing people also, not only being able to, it's something that you're doing that's a socially responsible, business in a way. So you're growing food for yourselves, your family, and for the community. And then to be able to get some money back for that, I would love to see, us to be able to supply our whole community, and then the community start supplying the restaurants and the hotels and things like that. Because all that, the produce and the eggs and the chickens and stuff, it's coming from the mainland over here. When the people that are visiting us in Hawaii, they want to be able to eat the foods that we're all growing for them. So I hope in the future that this, catches on, not just hydroponics, but other things, to where our community is supplying the restaurant and travel and tourism industry, not the mainland or the big companies, right?
Yeah, we're living in pretty exciting times. And I mean, like I said, when there was only a handful of people on, we are living in a district that is as large as Oahu. And so we definitely have the ability to feed ourselves, but we have the ability to really be the food basket for the entire state. And people can still export probably and make money, different kind of level of money and a different kind of service. But we can feed everybody in our community if we know where everybody's at, what people have, what people need. And does anyone have any questions for Allison and Alice and Al, because the Als? Otherwise, we'll move on, because it's perfect segue to like scaling up and feeding, community at a higher level. And Stephen's got some experience doing that, so I look forward to talking to him. Does anybody have any questions? You can drop them in the chat.
I have one question.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
speaking of scaling up, yeah. Hi, Allison and Alan. I'd love to hear about the scale of your operation and how you began, what scale, and how much you scaled up, and how hard it was. If you got a minute to discuss that.
So you can start in as little as a storage bin bucket to, grow for yourself. We have a 20 by 30 tent that probably has at least 1,000 heads of lettuce. So as far as scaling, we actually put some produce on another farm that we have. So it's just the way the cracky method is you can grow such volume in such a small area. But as far as scaling for us, I think that's as far as we're gone. And our whole thing is to teach other people so they can scale. Like Mary Jane, as soon as she gets done with her knee surgery recovery, she's going to be scaling her farm even further, and she's over in Punaʻs. So we're relying on the community to kind of scale it a little bit higher, because we really never really wanted to be in the lettuce business. We wanted to be in the food movement, change your community kind of business, and teach people how to do it, for themselves kind of thing. So that's really.
I was going to say real quick though, when I went over to the college and I saw what they did, they had all these tables set up, and that's what we basically mimicked. We started off with like one. I ended up with like three when we first started, and we just wanted to see how that went. And I'm telling you, once you start and once you get a rotation, you want more, and to where you have a bigger abundance of rotations. And once we did, we got finally to a point where it's like, okay, we're maxed out what we can basically do, because we actually have two 20 by 30 tents now, and it's like 9 tables in each one of them, and each of them hold as many as 50 to 100 heads. So that's enough
Per
for
table.
us. Yeah, per table. So for us, we're scaled pretty much to the point where we're done, or else we're going to start hiring people to help us. But we can only sustain pretty much on a low area. We could probably take care of that area, but outside here, there's just no way we can handle any more. That's why we want other people to take it on in their community.
I'd like to jump in if I can.
Please do.
My name is Jacqueline, and I'm, let's see here, I'll turn my video on so you can see my face. I am one of the AL students, and I started with just the 14-gallon Home Depot tote. And it's exactly like they said. Once I started growing, I wanted to get in that rotation and always have lettuce growing for myself. And so I branched out, and I have like 5 or 6 of those black totes. And because of that, it's allowing me to experiment with new things. Because of Allison, she's got some 3-inch pots. And so we've been growing beets in 3-inch pots. And it's just so exciting to try different things and know that it's going to be safe and there won't be any worry in regards to the safety of the food. And so I scaled up, and I custom built little tables for my situation where I have 2-foot by 4-foot tables. And then from that, I'm able to supply bins for a couple of my elderly clients that I take care of. And so they can go outside their door and they can pick lettuce in the morning for their lunch in the afternoon. And so that's another way of scaling up, is to get more bins on more people's lanais, so more people are eating fresh food.
And then one thing to add on to what Tam had said, Tam, once you build these tables, you don't have to build them again. You reuse them over and over again. You reuse the net pots over and over again. So the hardest part is building that initial first table. So if we could, the infrastructure. So if we could get tables built, and you can even build them on, like Jacqueline did, you can put them on the eaves of your house, so you wouldn't even need a greenhouse. So that's the initial part, is building that table. But once you built the table, the table will last a decade.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was going to say real quick too, that it's literally like 3 to 10 cents per head that's how much it costs you. Once it's all done and said with, that's how much it costs you from here on out. So it gives back over and over and over for almost everything we grow now. And it's pretty simple to build to start with. So yeah.
And then lastly, that's why we started our volunteer program where we help out other community members to build that infrastructure on their property. Because once we build it on their property, then they can keep going and going and growing. And so that would be something that, you know, with our Puna Rising Hub that we've Robert's created and
Yes.
Stephen's a part of, that we can possibly get something like that going so that people in there can start growing in their neighborhood and just keep it scaling, you know, because it doesn't solve food insecurity if it's just a couple little huts going. You know, it needs to go on a larger scale.
And this isn't the only way to grow, obviously. This is just initial for people who haven't started growing at all. It's an easy way to start and then branch out from here. Because I like raised beds, things. There's all kinds of other reasons why you go different directions. This is just one of the simple ways to do like lettuce and pak choi and not tomatoes. She hates doing tomatoes on there.
I'm an epic fail on tomatoes.
I love tomatoes.
I love
I love
tomatoes
them.
too, yeah, but we're having trouble trying to do that. You got to cage it all up and everything on the table. But, like I said, there's a place for everything. But this is a nice start for anybody.
That's great. Thanks. Thanks, you guys. If anyone does have questions for the Als, just drop it in the chat. I also want to encourage people, if you are associated with a farm, particularly if you're selling or bartering or anything like that, please drop your farm name or your link in here because this is being recorded and it will be shared. So feel free. We're all trying to connect as community members. So please feel free to put your information in the chat. Stephen, I look forward to talk to you because I just met you like a couple weeks ago at the Puna Regenerative Exchange potluck, and we had such great conversations. And I really like the history you have with feeding community and like kind of scaling up to a different level. So why don't you talk about that and some of your experience doing that?
Yeah.
And about the regenerative exchange, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. First off, thanks for hosting the call and getting us all together. Yeah, these conversations are really important. Yeah, background for the last 5, 6 years, similar to Allison and Alan. On the onset of COVID, I was living on Maui at the time in Lahaina, and at the onset of COVID, we realized that there was a major gap with the unsheltered and how they weren't actually being serviced. There wasn't any tourists, no handouts, no half-eaten meals in the garbage. They're basically being forgotten about. So my friend and I just simply just cooked 15 meals, and from the onset of COVID and those first 15 meals to the fires, which is about 4 years or so, 4.5 years. We scaled up from 15 meals to just under 500,000 without actually using one penny. We never received a donation. We never even opened a bank account. We ran it through 508c1a, our ministry called the Earth Keepers Guild. And we really just wanted to focus on the surplus of what was here or what was on Maui at the time. And we understood that there was already enough here and there was already enough land where we could start growing to keep scaling up. And I think that's the biggest initiative that we could maybe model here is at one point we were managing over 60 acres scattered all throughout the island, where we're getting the unsheltered off of the streets in the mornings, bringing them to the farm plots, teaching them how to grow, teaching them how to harvest, to weed. Yeah, what I really found was that it's not a homeless problem that was the issue. It's a hopeless problem. And once you start really figuring out where people get stuck in these hopeless loops, it's not just subject to the unsheltered. It's actually anybody in our community can be subjected to these loops of hopelessness. And so it was really about starting to bridge these gaps and starting to teach people how to get connected back to nature. I mean, by definition, in the English dictionary, nature is defined as anything that's not man-made, essentially. So we've already, by definition, separated ourselves from nature. And so to get everybody really back connected into the land, into Aina, into growing their own food and touching it and feeling the whole process is really, really important. And I feel like another part of my background is working with community trust indentures and working in private and like alternative currency models. And I feel like a thing that we could test and model here is that we did on Maui is create these community gardens that are basically ran by community land trusts, where we can start initially using just private land that people aren't using right now and get them into private agreements where we can use it for the next 5 years or so and start planting up a food forest and getting people where we actually have a physical space to get people into these workshops, put a hydroponic hut and have these physical locations scattered throughout Puna that are community based, community owned, backed, and really start creating a forest banking system here.
Can you just talk a little bit about the community land trust and what that would briefly like look like or be defined as?
Yeah, it would either be we would raise for a particular plot of land as a community, or a plot of land would get donated into a tax deductible nonprofit or ministry. And then we would put it into a trust where you would basically take it out of ownership perpetually, and basically create a community model where it's more into a stewardship model, and there's bylaws imprinted into the trust what can and can't happen on that land and what the land is utilized for. It very much practices or resembles a lot of how the Native Hawaiians used to actually understand the stewardship of the land, and each Kuleana land, Konihiki land, Crown land has a very specific use case for it, a use for it, and so it's kind of getting back to that. Allison, I think Allison said it was there's all these parts of the island, all these different climates here. We might as well utilize all that and grow what specializes in each climate. And we can do that by putting those allocations into the bylaws of these trust indentures.
I love that. What would you say are the first couple steps in making something like that happen, just for everyone's knowledge?
Well, yeah, I mean, first get everybody on in the same orientation, on the same page, understanding the same lexicon is really important. It is kind of a foreign language that has taken me a decade to really learn and understand. But simply, it's really looking for people that have excess land in all of these different neighborhoods where we can even just get access for the time being. We don't even need to start with the trust indentures right now. We can get community initiatives going on private land with private agreements. If somebody is willing to donate or give us access, a group of us or the community access to a piece of land, or working with the state or county to get a piece of land. Like I said, it doesn't have to go into the trust indenture right away, but working in a community model could be really beneficial to starting these community gardens.
Excellent. What else is important? So once we have land, so how then do we get from growing food to feeding community? There's a lot that happens in the middle there.
Yeah, I was just talking to Bully and Colby Costa the other night, and they were talking about starting. They're really connected with the farming community. They do the ranching on Mauna Kea, and they were talking about creating a centralized market. And I think this is what Puna Regenerative Exchange Group has really been moving towards, is actually starting these free markets, these more of barter-based markets, and really empowering the farmers to bring their produce and what they're growing into a centralized market where the community can actually come and get fresh produce. That's something that's initiative that we can start right away, where we can on a small scale in Puna, where we can, even if it's just once a month, just have these market events where people just come and exchange their produce or whatever they have to trade. That's a really good starting point. Um,
Right. Does anybody have any questions for Stephen, or is there anything else you want to bring up at this point?
Well, yeah, I guess I'd really like to talk about the Regenerative Exchange Group. Robert has done it. Robert and Gary, I think I saw him on this call. Yeah, they've been doing a really good job creating this group. A lot of us were here at the last event. It's every last Sunday. Um, we have a directory that Robert and some team members put together where we're really trying to put a resource-based directory together that shows where all the the resources, the talents, the gifts, the needs are in the community. And then we have another member creating a resource map that actually kind of plays in with the directory where we can actually map out Puna and see where the resources are, who's growing what, who has access to what, who has the gifts, the talents, the machinery, the tools, and then what who needs what. And we get the feeling that so many of our elders are in need of lawn service care or whatever that case may be, and to create a platform where all of those needs can be represented and met. So.
And is there talk about like where there's gaps in resources or where there are kupuna who aren't, maybe high volumes of kupuna that need access to food or assistance in land care or anything like that? That'd be another next step, maybe.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of the conversation, and that's I think what we're trying to do with building out this directory and just really sharing the application. Robert, do you mind putting that? I think he's already did that. Yeah, he just put the link in the chat.
Yep.
Um, yeah, if we can just
Anyone interested, yep, please
yeah.
sign up on that form that Robert just linked up on there.
Yeah, there's different layers of privacy that you can choose, whether you want it to be on a be seen by the broader community and anybody and everybody can see, or just anybody that's in the regenerative exchange group. Um, so there are different layers where we understand that people don't necessarily want all of their information out in the community. So all of that's safeguarded.
Right. And then there's other thing you brought up when you first started talking that I just want to get back to, even if we can't dive too deeply into it. But you talked about like a food bank community currency. I kind of heard those words, and I know that's one of the ways I think that I met Tam many, many years ago when we were talking about a community currency. I think at his home in Leilani, maybe this might have been a long time ago, Tam. I don't know if you even remember that, but maybe just talk about that concept that exists so people can just see the vision of the ultimate, like different kinds of ways that we are increasing not just the abundance but the true wealth of Puna.
Yeah, I feel like there's a major gap between our representation of how we feel how we interpret money as like our means of living, but our money is backed by things that don't support our environment. They're actually in degradation to it. So if we can actually start creating economic models and currency models that where our currency is actually pegged to a tangible value, it's not fiat, it's commodity back. It's actually pegged to the value of the land and the production of the land and the regeneration of the land. And then anybody that's coming into the ecosystem, they inherently bring their gifts, their talents, their communities. There's an inherent value that everybody brings. And in today's economics, we don't understand all of the forms of capital. We really only interpret three forms of capital, but there's, especially here, the cultural capital, the spiritual capital, all of these don't really get represented in today's economy. So if we started really pegging a currency backed by the resources in which we're having and actually uh, start to be able to create currencies that represent the contributed value. So any time that anybody comes in and adds value, we should be able to find a tangible way to show their reciprocity and the value that they're adding to the community. And we feel like in Unitree's group and the groups that we talk about, a big part of that is creating currency models that are backed by our forest systems, which is our food, our medicine, and our building materials. and that's what lays a really strong foundation to go forward on.
Absolutely. I just want to put it out there to the group. If there's anybody that has questions for Stephen or Alan Allison, please drop them in the chat. Is there anything else you want to share with us at this point, Steve?
No, I appreciate the space. Yeah, and I look forward to getting to know all the people in the room and seeing where the connection points are.
And I just want to acknowledge Carrie, who brought up the fallow farmlands that impact growing around them, and then the liability issues, of course, when utilizing privately owned lands, which is, of course, why there would have to be some sort of land use agreements with those private owners. And things like
exactly.
So I'm going to switch gears to Tam here. Tam's all about food forests. I know that. And food reserves, which is something that I'm also concerned about, food reserves. And then maybe Tam will talk about some, policy ideas as well. Because, we got to do this work on the ground level, right? Boots on the ground is what we're all talking about. But it's possible that government can also be very helpful to our movement as well. That might not always be the case, but I know Tam has got some ideas.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. I'm also very excited to have this group convening and other groups, and I'm going to start joining the Friday talks with the Regen Exchange group. So I think we're all getting connected, which is how it happens, right? It's how change happens. So I'm Tam Hunt. Been a green energy lawyer for 25 years now, and lived in Hawaii full time for a dozen years, and have been focused on food policy as well as green energy policy for the last few years, more seriously, as I've gotten deeper into the community here and realized just how vulnerable we are. Everyone knows this on this call, but I'll say it anyway. We are at the end of every supply chain. And so if anything serious happens in the world around us, we're kind of screwed. Unless you have food forests, unless you have solar and battery storage, unless you have electric vehicles, unless you have e-bikes, unless you have community, first and foremost. And so it really is about creating community, because you can be ready for yourself and your home and your family, but if people around you are not ready, or if your island's not ready, then you're not ready. And so I really want to get our whole island, and in fact our whole state, really resilient. And that means local food, local power, local green building materials, local supply chains as much as possible, and truly localize everything over time. So I'm going to focus on two things that I'm working on through both my group, Think Big, which I founded 6 years ago during the pandemic, when I kind of really, internalized this supply chain issue during that strange period in our lives. And since then have been, working on those issues through Think Big, and also more recently through my House campaign for District 4 to take this fight into the state House and really get our state policies back on track, because we've gone, woefully awry in recent years, like woefully. So I'm going to talk about a food forest program we're developing through Think Big. We're calling it Prep, Set, Forget. And this is an education program to really kind of teach people how to build or how to grow food forests on their land or their business, wherever they have some land available. And we have a prototype website I'm going to pull up for y'all to show you this real quick. Can you enable screen sharing, Tanya?
Just looking for where that's it. Can you
and this began as, go ahead.
Can you request the screen share, because for some reason it's
it just says host disabled. If I can't share, that's fine. That's not crucial, but it'd be nice to show this.
Not wrong to do it.
No.
Sorry about that. No.
That's fine. That's fine.
If you make him co-host, Tanya, make him co-host to him, Bill, so he can do it.
Oh yeah, let me go. Good idea. Good idea. Where's Tam? Where's Tam? Here we go. Okay. Got it. Perfect.
There we go. Okay, choose a screen or window. I'm just going to talk you through it. This is not. Okay. There we go. Okay, so Prep Set Forget is in two forms currently. We have it in PDFs and flyers we can just hand out, and there's three versions: one for the windward coastal region, one for the leeward coastal region, and one for higher elevations on the Big Island. And this, of course, could be done for each of the islands because it's not that different. Though, of course, Big Island is more volcanic than other islands for the most part. And the idea is to basically have 8 or 10 crops that work in your climate region. And we have the prep, set, forget part for each of those crops. And the more you prep, the more you set the plant, the more you can forget. And there's a reciprocal thing there where, as you all know, because you're probably growers yourselves, if you do more of those, you can basically, truly forget some plants. Other plants need more work to get them established. And the idea is to have thriving food forests in a year or two. And the key is knowledge. I've been here now 12 years, and I've learned in many and sundry ways, it's not easy to grow here. When you first come here from the mainland, like a lot of us do, we think, oh, plenty of water, plenty of sun, easy. But there isn't much soil, especially on Puna, and there's a lot of extra bugs we don't know about in the mainland, and you want to grow what wants to grow. That's what I've learned in my years here. You don't want to grow things that are not from here, that don't want to grow here, that take a lot of work to grow here. So I'm really learning that you need to grow what is, tropical fruits and veggies and what wants to grow. So the second version of this is to actually put it online in a map-based app where you can click anywhere on the map and it shows this information for your elevation, for your rain patterns, for your soil type, and it has many more plants in there, and you can select what level of difficulty you want to actually grow this. So a friend of mine, Freely, basically put together this amazing website for me, and it's all prototype, it's all very new, and I'll share that in a link in a minute here. But this is, again, very easy to modify for all the islands. So you just add data layers for each of the islands, so it becomes a Hawaii-wide thing very quickly, and a very easy-to-use app to spread the knowledge to anyone who wants to take a little time to learn how to grow food forests here. The second part of this program is to recognize that most people, probably like 95% of people, really don't have the time or the passion or the ability to actually do the work, to get their hands dirty, to buy the plants, to do the whole thing. So we're creating a program called Food Abundance Teams, which is a business idea, and also could be through nonprofits, really any group that says, okay, I want to create 3 or 4 person teams that go out and find people who want food forests, and you simply take the PSNF information and you talk with the landowner, the homeowner. You find out what they have already, what they want to grow, how much effort they can put into the food forest themselves, and you prep set and you create the food forest for them. And we want to do this actually as primarily a for-profit model, because we think that's probably more sustainable than relying on government or foundation grants. We are going to try and seed it with some government funding. And I'll talk in a second about a bill I'm going to propose when I'm in the House on day one. But really, I think this kind of thing has to be primarily a private model to be really sustainable and transformational. Because whenever it's a grant-based thing, it can get a little kickstart, but to make it actually last, it has to be a private sector kind of thing, a community-based thing. So yes, I've committed to introducing a bill on day one that would request $5 million in seed funding for this model around the whole state. And that's not a ton of money for the whole state, but it certainly is enough to get some of these going. And the way I'm envisioning it now is that money would provide maybe half of the cost for the first year of food forests that are planted around the state. And then beyond that, it would hopefully be self-sustaining as people get more and more inspired and more people are trained. And I'll add this too, and I won't take too much more time here, Tanya. We are in discussion now with UH's CTAR and the KL Mao Center for Sustainable Island Living to create a 2-day certification course for the PSNF program for planting food forests. So 2 days is not very long, but it's long enough to train someone who's already got some knowledge about gardening to really learn these basic 2 or 3 dozen plants and how to plant them in different climate zones around the Big Island. And again, we can add more complicated, more intensive workshop and certifications down the road, but this 2-day certification feels appropriate for kind of the first step to get a trained cadre of food forest workers into the Job Corps here. I will now address kind of the top-down approach briefly, and this will be part of the same bill I'm going to introduce in January. And this is to create a strategic food reserve on each island. And the idea behind this is to recognize that we need to, as we do for oil in most nations nowadays, need to have a strategic reserve of key supplies in the event of serious calamities or supply chain shocks. So we have probably a week of food on each island right now, if that. If that. Most homes don't even have a week of food stored, even though every HIEMA and others recommend 2 weeks of food stores in every home. But a survey done last year, I think it was, found only maybe 12% of homes actually have even 2 weeks of food and water. So we need to dramatically ramp that up in terms of home storage, but also in terms of community and island-wide food storage. And the idea behind the Strategic Food Reserve Program is that it would actually require a certain percentage that grows over time of locally grown perishables that rotate into the food reserve. And then as they near expiration, they rotate out, if they're not used, into local food banks. So they create more certain markets for the islands in general, because farming in Hawaii is very difficult because we don't have very good markets established. If you have a large buyer, like you have for adaptations or through Ulu Co-op, you can create new markets for farmers to get inspired and actually have the ability to earn a living. And then when you rotate through to local food banks, it's basically a win-win-win. Then a certain portion will be non-perishables, like any normal food reserve. And so we think that combination of bottom-up food forest, community inspiration-led, and then top-down island strategic food reserves, that creates a lot more resilient food system here on the Big Island and each of the islands. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Well, I think bringing up Ulu Co-op is a great example, because they do an incredible job at teaching people how to manage their ulu, plant it and manage it, and created not just a infrastructure for ulu to be processed by combining all the ulu that's being not used maybe by the person who's growing it or the family that's growing it, but to create additional value-added products. Those products, like ulu flour, is a really great reserve product. You know what I mean? Because that's easy. That has a little bit of storage time. It can easily be circulated to the community, circulated to the community when necessary, or like given to the food banks for distribution. So, I mean, that's such a great model of what Donna and her team are doing at the Ulu Co-op. And if you guys haven't been there, I highly suggest visiting, calling and visiting that location as well, and just seeing what they're doing, because it's pretty top notch. And I believe they've moved it beyond Ulu. I know that they're working with Mamaki tea and other products too.
Yeah, and they plan to make it more broad still. They're, as they get market, options themselves, they're spreading that market to others. Really, but I've also been told, just to share, since we're talking here, I've been told that their model is heavily grant dependent. And so I think they're trying to steadily get less dependent on grants. And they obviously are selling products based on Ulu and other things too. But they're pretty expensive from what I've seen. So I think we need to really work to get those markets going that are self-sustaining.
I think they're grant dependent, but also, like, if you look at their financials, because I did go to their annual meeting this past year, and a lot of those grants are also to get the new initiative started. Like, they expanded the kitchen, you know what I mean? So they expanded the amount of the types and amount of equipment that's there so that it has higher capacity. So that may always be grant dependent for expanding capacity for things like that and getting new equipment on island. Yeah, I also do think that they have a great model for selling the products as well. So yeah, I think I see Carrie making some comments on here. Carrie, did you want to speak by any chance? Let's see if she's available. She's saying banana and avocado are becoming problematic due to the
hi. Can you hear me?
We can. If you could turn your
Okay.
video on, that's even better because then people
I
can
don't
see you
have
as well.
video.
Okay, got it.
I'm in a very, very, very messy area. My office is not video worthy, and the computer doesn't have it. So, anyhow, Tam, to your question, there are a lot of pests that are attacking papaya, and in fact, I don't know if you know the Howells, who used to have one of the larger papaya farms. They got out of it because of the amount of just terrible, terrible replanting that's needed and the maintenance. It's becoming a very problematic plant. If you have one in your, we have quite a few in our yard, but you can't forget. I mean, that's a term I would never use for something like papaya. Banana's another one because of bunching top. You don't want to forget it. You want to maintain it. And I'm real picky about this because we have so many fallow farms. People who have planted stuff and then either left planted because I'm going to come back later, or planted and then never come back later. And all of those are bringing pests. QLB is really spreading because of fallow farms, because nobody's maintaining that, and it's allowing pretty much a stagnant bug to just be able to pop off. They get into a fallow farm and they just regenerate. Same thing with papaya, same thing in the past with guava, is if you get a pest and you have a fallow area, or you've got somebody who thinks I can forget it, you're going to have problems. Yeah, it's just especially in Puna, especially on our island, you can't truly forget most of the things. Cassava is one of the ones that, because it has such oxalics and all that, may be better, but they're actually pointing QLB on cassava now. So I don't know if that's true. We haven't had it hit ours, but if QLB goes into cassava, that's another one you're not going to be able to forget either. I mean, unfortunately,
yeah, good points, Carrie. And
we
I will
have,
add this.
I mean, we're watching our production trees going down, and they're just going negative. And we've lost one of our highest production trees to QLB. So it's real easy to say you can forget, but once you've got QLB and with its wide variety of hosts, it really can impact every plan you've got. Just saying.
Yeah, I'd love to chat more. Maybe see your farm and.
It's not a real farm; it's a city lot.
City, yeah. Well, I guess I'll just add this. So the preps that forget, we do clarify in the flyers on the website that the forget part is meant to be a little bit tongue in cheek, because almost nothing can be truly forgotten to be actually a productive food plant. It's more aspirational, but I will certainly look further into what you're talking about for papaya and banana.
I wanted to interject something. My name is Claudia, and I live in Hilo, and I'm moving to Hakalau, and I've gone to the Puna Rising meeting. I totally respected Gary's a good friend of mine. But there's the invasive plant species office in Hilo has the nematodes available for free for anybody that wants to be treating their infested trees with
Claudia, they do, but they have run out of them quite a bit, and in fact, they almost got their funding cut. I was instrumental in getting them refunded because they almost lost their funding for the UH part of that QLB study that has technicians that are doing the testing and also nematode development. It's a wonderful program, but if they don't have nematodes when you have an outbreak, it doesn't help.
Well, my girlfriend got one 3 days ago.
I know, but I'm saying if you're under a constant, because we have a fallow lands adjacent, we cannot treat their land because there's no legal ability to, and that's something I want some of our legislators to look at, because we have nuisance plants, we don't have nuisance pests. It should be an easy change to make that into nuisance plants and pests, that you can then, if your neighbor, whether they're dead, out of the country, not paying taxes, all of those things are hitting us, and you can't treat their land right now for pests. You can only if they have nuisance plants can you do anything, but all the other pests, you're stuck with your hands tied. So if you have that, and our whole neighborhood is suffering from one lot. Yeah.
So, and that goes, that's why, we need as many people doing growing food. That's what brings community resilience, is with the more people hands on deck growing, as well as looking at things from a policy standpoint. I firmly believe that government should be supporting community initiatives at the community levels.
And
so,
Tanya, I think you've got my government, my
Yep.
regulations and rules. I mean, it's
Yes.
28 pages just to be a beakeeper.
Yes.
And that's just the beekeeping parts of all of the regulations. They're all
28
there.
pages.
They're
It's
all
great.
there for everyone. But I have highlighted just and pulled out of the code just the things on beekeeping, and that's 28 pages for federal, state, and local regulations.
Yep.
So,
I think the L's have
and
their hands up really quick. Is that in response to what Carrie's talking about?
No, I just kind of want to tap on something that Tam had said, where he was going to get that $5 million and that would run out eventually, and that we can't be so grant supported. And I really liked him talking about for-profit things, because it takes money to keep things fluctuating, and if we keep relying on just these grants, the grants dry up. They help kickstart you, but how can we do things? So I'm just wanted to tap in and say that I really like and would like to hear more about the business side of doing that to keep money fluctuating, so we can keep these food sustainable missions accomplished, right?
Absolutely. And Carrie, if you want to drop any of those links in as well, because there's a lot of regulations when it comes to food and things like that. And even if you're giving it away for free, if I understand correctly, Carrie.
Yes,
so,
in Hawaii, giving is the same as selling. So if you are giving, unless it's to your family and somebody who won't sue you or won't get mad at you, it's the exact same as selling. So all the regulations, if you give it, including labeling and all of that, all of the laws and regulations. Also, Hawaii is normally, states are more restrictive. Hawaii is less restrictive in the home-based products, and a lot of people are going into that. But there's a caveat with that, is that the USDA does not recognize that. So you could still be held to USDA regulations, even though Hawaii says you're not. And especially if you ship, and that includes in your luggage, any of your stuff that's labeled and all that, anything that you're doing, whether you're selling it or not, because Hawaii says giving is selling. And so, we have all of that. And if you want a copy, it's right now, it's in a rough draft form. This is part of our grant, is to get all this compiled. So we have a very rough draft. But if you want me to send it to you, and I'd love feedback back, just I'll give my email.
Just that would be great if you want to put your email in the chat.
Because it's 28 pages plus cover page and all that.
And again, that's why we want as many people engaged as possible. This is why civic education and participation is important, because none of us will ever know all of it, everything there is to be known, especially if we're just even talking about food. Like I started with in the beginning, food is growing food, it's harvesting food, it's distributing food, it's making food, value-added food products. There's the supply chain. If we want to stop relying on the ships coming, and we want to be truly resilient within our own community, we need to create those food supply chains and know that we can get it out to as many people that need that. And I know we can do that, but we do also need to take note of the policies that are in place at both county and state and potentially federal levels. Tina Holt I want to introduce her. She's also running for State House District 2. She's also helping organize. Some of you guys have been to some of my other civic engagement events that I've done, and Tina's instrumental in helping organize also with Ku'ule Keawe, where we've created a Google Drive, tinyurl.com/engage Hawaii, so that we could start tracking community issues that we can take care of. And Tina's going to talk really quickly about like a policy group that we're just trying to get ideas of what policies people are interested in, so that we can keep you informed about those policies. So Tina, you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we will talk. There's someone else with their hands up.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much, Tanya. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Holt. I'm running for State House District 2 in Hilo. And as Tanya said, I've been working closely with Tanya and Adrian and Kule and a bunch of awesome people to try and continue this momentum that we're starting to build up. Because as I'm sure everybody knows here, it's not just about the election, it's about what we do after and what we do leading into the future. And a organizing struggle that I have experienced, and I think several other people have experienced, is keeping track of everyone's ideas and data and how we can continue to collect that information so that the next time we have a food sovereignty conversation, you definitely get an email about what's going on. The next time we're talking about water issues, you definitely get a text message letting you know where we're meeting and what's going on so that it's easier for us to build momentum and build power. So the link that I'm going to share in the chat is just our first step to try and make that possible. Right now, just because of how I had to build it, it's connected to my personal campaign website, but soon once we go into the back end and shift some things around, it'll be connected to all of East Hawaii specifically. So forgive my URL being my campaign. It's about way more than me. That's just the technical things. So yeah, I just dropped it in. It's holtforhawaii.solidarity.tech/community-concerns. And it only takes a couple minutes for you to fill out. Share it with anybody you like. The only things that are required is your email, your zip code, and what your top priority for being contacted and participating in. And then there's space for choosing more, and there's space for writing your ideas and your comments because, you know, you guys are the ones that are closest to this issue. And you know what needs to be done and you know what kind of help that you need and often have the best ideas for solutions. So we are here and we will make sure that the government continues to move in a direction to where we're here to support the community things that are already happening rather than coming in and trying to tell you what to do when we've never been in your position. So thank you so much. Love everything that's happening. I'm here if you have questions.
Thanks, Tina. I also want to recognize Tony from Mayan World Farm because he's dropped a couple comments in here about the Mayan healing rain for pest control, and he wants to talk about the roadside vendors.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I used to see a lot of vendors on the side of the road, and we never had problems with food before. It was something that if you had a plant outside and you came out on the side of the road and sell what you had, I mean, food accessible was there. It wasn't, you have to be at a certain location, you have to go at these markets and you have to pay fees. Is there any way that we can reverse that, getting tickets if you're selling stuff on the side of the road again? I mean, this is stuff that they put in place where they stop us from making a living. I mean, some aunties can't go to the market, can't go anywhere, but they can come by the side of the road there, put something there and sell their little produce and, homemade goods, jams and jellies. And these are, tourists, just locals just driving by. And I mean, I understand the reason behind it, but, we're asking for food security in the longer run. We had more farmers then. We had more people interested in growing stuff because they saw someone else growing it and they were like, okay, I can do this. And I can't do it now. What I'm going to do with it, it's falling on the ground and leaving there for a long time. So hopefully we can reverse that aspect of how we can get food into families' hands,
Yeah, this goes back to also like the formal regulations on food. Like there's a balance between food safety for community and actually then making it like nearly impossible to meet all the regulations and making it kind of more elitist as well. So there's definitely a balance there. And I know a lot of us understand that, boots on the ground. I think we have people running for office this year that understand that. It's just that there's, a whole group of people who don't understand the nuance of that, because maybe they haven't tried to do it. I know when Carrie gave me the list of regulations to create a value-added food product, and I showed that to my daughter who wants to do that and wants to have a food truck, she was immediately like, forget it. And I was like, no, that's like not the answer. That's not the answer, is to like give up. You know what I mean? And so,
and that was just part of the regulations. That didn't include any of the USDA and all that. So
right.
the labeling laws and all that. So it gets.
And this is why we need people in all different levels of, you know, addressing these issues so that we can have true reliance, self-reliance as a community, and food security that foods we want to eat. Because going back also to something that Tam said, like, yeah, there's a lot of people that can't afford local foods. I mean, sometimes I'm that person, in all honesty. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to make a choice. You know, everything's super expensive right now. What I try to always remember is that I'd rather pay more for something that's feeding or helping someone on island who is my neighbor or my friend or my family or in my community than having a portion of that money going somewhere else whenever possible. And we can't buy all the products we need locally at this point. So anyways, anyone else have some last thoughts? It's already past 2:00. I'm super excited. We had everyone stick around for the whole time. It's always a meaty conversation. I love deep conversations personally, and I love them when they're around solving our problems together, because no man is an island, but we live on one. Oh, Gary Rosenberg. Yes, please speak.
Hey, everybody. I just wanted to encourage everybody. Puna Rising is hosting a series of potlucks the last Sunday of every month. And Hawaiian Acres is hosting a series of potlucks on the second Saturday of every month at Linda Brush's house. I just want to encourage everybody, if we're going to build trusting relationships, history dictates that it's going to start by us getting together, looking at each other in the eye, and breaking bread together. So please eat. All of these are actually seed swaps as well. So if you have plant starts or seeds that you can share, I want to encourage everyone, if you live in Hawaiian Acres or not, please, the food is always great. The conversation is good. And we're trying to lay the foundation for cooperative relationships, one person at a time. So please try to attend either or both of these events. And lastly, if you're interested in local meat, this Sunday at my farm, we're doing our monthly pig butchering workshop, and anyone is welcome to reach out to me through the Seeger Institute website and come to that.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say one thing on top of Gary. I don't know about the Hawaiian Acres one, but I know the one that Gary and Robert do at the end of the month, the last Sunday of the month. We're not just sitting around eating food. We're actually talking about getting stuff done and taking action. This last time we broke up into 6 different groups. Everybody had their tasks. So it's not just eating food and getting to know each other. We're actually taking action. So I really want to commend Gary and Robert for putting that together. I know Stephen was a part of it too. So yeah, it's about taking action.
Thank you, guys.
I can say that this Zoom idea came out of that workshop because it was very action oriented. We came out with actionable steps. I had a great conversation with Stephen Calkins, saw Allison there. I had good conversations with both Gary and Robert. And so like, these are the kind of things, like, we got to meet in person, but we can also continue the conversations because Puna's huge. Puna is a big place. We don't have to drive everywhere and waste our gas, and we can keep deepening the conversations and increasing the amount of events we do together. I want to just thank everybody who showed up, because I know this is during the day. People are working, people are busy, and just everyone who's spending their time to help work on this issue of food sovereignty. I don't understand why everyone running for office doesn't have this at the top of their list as a major urgency, when we can see just in the last couple months how much food prices have gone up. We saw in COVID when things shut down. It just blows my mind that for multiple elections in a row, this hasn't been the number one food is urgent. It's urgent that we become resilient here. So
Fair
thank you
here.
everyone who's working in this on this issue, growing food, doing what you can, and informing other people. Mahalo. Have a great afternoon.
Real
Mahalo,
quickly,
And don't
Tanya.
forget to vote.
Thanks,
Don't
and
forget
and
to
also
vote.
I have, if
Get out and
anybody
vote
wants to
Saturday.
view any of the bee forage from around Hawaii Island, I have my link, and that includes food
Bees
plants
are important.
and well, not bees. This is using them as environmental monitors. So if you want to see what's happening around the island, just go to that, and you can search on, unfortunately, scientific name of the plants you're interested in, and you can also find information on pests and all that. And we're finding a whole bunch of novel pests we never knew.
Very
were
interesting
here.
study. Take a look at that. Very interesting.
Thank you, Tanya.
Aloha, everyone.
Thank you, Tam. Thanks,
Love
everyone.
you all.
Grow Hawaii together.
Aloha.
Grow
Thank
Hawaii
you.
together.
Yes.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Yay.